So let's talk about the UK's spring statement from March 3rd, 2026. If you caught the news that day, you might have blanked and missed it. I mean, it felt like, well, like nothing really happened, right? And honestly, that's the real story here. We're going to dive into why this year the big goal was to be, believe it or not, strategically boring.
And you don't have to take my word for it. This quote from Richard Dana, the CEO of Tembo, just nails it. He said, "After the huge uncertainty, this year's spring statement has been a low-key affair with no hidden surprises. After years of economic shocks and budgets that sent the markets into a total spin, low-key and no surprises were basically the magic words everyone wanted to hear."
And that right there, that was the whole point. The lack of fireworks, the quietness, that wasn't an accident. It was the plan all along. So, okay, what was the strategy here? Well, after all the economic turbulence we've seen, the government's number one goal was just to signal stability, to calm the financial markets, for sure, but also to give everyone, from huge corporations to families trying to plan their finances, a little bit of predictability. This wasn't just about calming everyone's nerves, it was about laying down a stable foundation for what comes next.
And the policy behind all this, it's something called the one major fiscal event doctrine. Basically, after a few years where it felt like huge announcements were dropping constantly and throwing everyone's plans into chaos, the idea now is pretty simple. All the big, market-moving decisions about taxes and spending, they happen just once a year during the autumn budget. That turns the spring statement into more of a progress report. It's designed to give us certainty, not more shocks.
All right, so let's check out that progress report. Now, the government doesn't get to mark its own homework here. That's the job of the Independent Office for Budget Responsibility, or the OBR. So let's see what they had to say. Okay, so the headline number for economic growth, it saw a little bit of a downgrade. The OBR tweaked its forecast for 2026 down to 1.1%. And really, this just reflects some weaker data we saw at the end of last year. And, businesses just feeling a bit more cautious heading into this one. But here's the really good news. Inflation. It's forecast to fall faster than anyone expected, averaging just 2.3% for the year. And that's mainly because food and energy prices are coming down, which, let's be honest, is a huge relief for everyone's budget. Now, what about jobs? The OBR expects unemployment to hit a peak of about 5.3% this year. But the key thing to focus on here is what they predict happens after that. They see this as the high point, with a steady decline coming in the years that follow. And this table here kind of shows you that longer-term picture. Yeah, 2026 growth is a bit slower, but look ahead. The OBR sees it picking back up to 1.6% in the following years. And at the same time, inflation is expected to hit that sweet spot, the Bank of England's 2% target, while unemployment is projected to fall. So the trend is heading in the right direction. So with that economic picture in mind, how did the business community actually react to this steady-as-she-goes approach? Well, it wasn't a simple thumbs up or thumbs down. While a lot of people welcomed the stability, others felt like it was a huge missed opportunity. It created this really interesting mix of relief and concern. For small businesses, the feeling was pretty clear. Urgency. The Federation of Small Businesses basically said, look, inaction isn't good enough when our members are getting hit with a mountain of rising costs. For their staff, for their rent, for energy. They really saw this as a missed chance for the government to step in and offer some help. Then you have the voice of big business, the CBI. They were on board with the government's overall mission, but they really hammered home the need for speed. Their point was simple. Things like delays in planning permission or getting connected to the grid. Those aren't just annoying administrative hurdles. They directly translate into lost investment. They want to see action, not just hear about the direction. And the British Chambers of Commerce was singing a similar tune. They agreed, yeah, the economy is heading in the right direction, but they called for specific policy changes, like reforming business rates, to really put the foot on the gas and accelerate that growth. Okay, so that's what businesses are thinking. But let's bring this back to you. What does a boring statement actually mean for your money, for your mortgage, for your future plans? Why should you even care about this?
Well, this kind of stability actually has some real tangible benefits for all of us. Think about mortgages. A calmer market means lenders can be more confident, which leads to more predictable and competitive rates. It's the same for savings. You get fewer wild swings. And maybe most importantly, there's way less risk of some surprise tax change suddenly messing with your take-home pay. It just makes planning your own finances that much easier. I mean, just think back and contrast where we are now with the chaos of a few years ago.
Back in 2022, we had extreme market volatility and rates that were just shooting up. Today, the whole focus is on stability. Mortgage rates are actually at their lowest level since that crazy period, and there's just so much more predictability. For anyone trying to buy a home or remortgage, that shift is absolutely massive. But, and this is the really fascinating part, behind this quiet, stable-looking statement, something much, much bigger is actually happening. This stability isn't the end goal, it's the foundation. And on that foundation, the government is playing a very long game. It's making a huge bet on the future of British energy. And this, right here, is the centerpiece of that bet. Great British Energy, or GBE. This is the UK's brand new, publicly owned clean energy company. The whole idea is for it to be the engine driving our country's transition to renewables and really a cornerstone of our energy security for decades to come. And listen, this isn't just some vague idea on a PowerPoint slide. The timeline here shows real, concrete progress. GBE was launched back in May of last year. They hired a top CEO over the summer. And just last month, they unveiled a £1 billion plan for local energy projects and confirmed their permanent headquarters will be in Aberdeen. This thing is real and it's happening right now. And the CEO, Dan McGrail, explains the strategy perfectly. He says, choosing Aberdeen anchors GBE in a world-leading energy hub. But the mission itself is national. The goal is to use all that incredible local talent to drive investment into clean energy projects right across the UK. Which really brings us full circle and to our final question. The 2026 spring statement basically traded short-term excitement for long-term stability. It was about calming the waters today so that these huge, quiet bets on tomorrow, like Great British Energy, can be made. And it leaves us all with something to think about. Is a boring economy the price we have to pay for a more secure and predictable future?